MLGW, CEO of Memphis Light, Gas, and Water. Good afternoon, everybody. Thanks for being here. And having just presented the FY24 proposed budget, we're pleased with that we're going to be able to make significant progress with resilience and reliability in the grid by doing some significant and aggressive tree trimming, replacing outdated infrastructure, modernizing our grid. As you heard today, some additional resilience and reliability measures with adding some battery storage, doing the engineering required for solar power, and then also moving into some backup generation so that we can continue the economic development here in our community. So what questions do y'all have?
Kind of a lot to unpack.
It's a lot to unpack.
I think one thing that stood out was the $5 increase. Is
Yes.
that just for customers that rely on your electric services or all customers?
So that is only for customers in electric. That is a rate increase for electric. The proposed, let me talk a little bit about that since you asked. Last year when we presented the budget, we forecast the need for a 10.5% rate increase across 30 years. I have added 1.5% to that, so it's now a 12% across 3 years, and we will start that in 2024 if the budget is approved. That is necessary because of the lingering impacts of inflation on the cost of goods and services, and the additional significant investment that we are making in reliability for the electric system. It's a little under $5 in 2024 will be the impact to our customers on their monthly budget, and then that would grow each year to $5 for each of the successive years. Today we're at about $120 a month for our customers who use 1,000 kilowatt hours of power. By 2026, that will grow by $15 to $1,135 a month in 2026.
Doug, we know that our community has financial need. Are you positive that your customers can afford this?
So, as I mentioned in the board meeting, there are customers who we know struggling. So that's why we have a pretty aggressive utility assistance program here that we are wonderfully thankful that we have such good partners like MIFA and United Way who take funding that we collect from our other customers who donate to those assistance funds, and then they're distributed through our nonprofit partners at MIFA and United Way. And so we will double down on that. We are always going to make sure that we try to give people the best opportunity to help their friends and neighbors. There was a move at one time to eliminate the opt-out program and make it an opt-in, which we know will drive down the number of contributions to that, and the roundup opportunity. Today, people get to do that automatically and they have to opt out. But we have the most giving community in the country. And so I know friends and neighbors will come together to help friends and neighbors. We will always have assistance programs for our customers who are challenged to meet the affordability of the rates. And we think about this very deeply. When we were in the height of anytime we had an outage, I always think about people who were making choices about rent or paying the light bill or buying groceries. And when they lose a refrigerator full of groceries, I understand how impactful that is to customers, and that's what's driving us to improve the reliability of our system. So I understand it's a challenge for many people.
Outside of the budget, you also mentioned proposed a new building. Can you kind of break that down? Will that also need city council approval since it's outside of the budget?
Sure. So it will be a part of the 23 budget. So two things that I talked about for 2023 were the opportunity that was presented for us to actually acquire the radio frequency spectrum for us to have the communication system, the most capable communication system. That opportunity does not come around very often because those blocks of frequency are not routinely available. So we think that's a good opportunity for us. The facility that we were talking about, as we are modernizing the grid, we need to pretty significantly upgrade our system operations with a new automated distribution management system, with some upgrades to our SCADA system, and therefore we need a facility suitable to do that. In that search, we came across a facility that came onto the market and was available that meets those needs, and actually could help us consolidate a number of functions into that facility for more efficiency. Today, for instance, all of our engineers are not sitting together, so there's some loss in collaboration there. What it will also do is allow us to avoid the cost of this facility that we're in. It has significant deferred maintenance as well. that was estimated to be about $50 million to include seismic improvements. A new facility would already have all of that embedded into it. So once again, it's an opportunity that does not come around very often. It meets all of our requirements for reliability and suitability. And so we believe it's the prudent thing to do for us to move forward to avoid substantial cost, save some funding in the progress, and get us a facility that actually improves our operational effectiveness and efficiency.
Is that facility in the Cordova area?
It is in the Goodlet Farms area. There's a Goodlet Farms Parkway. There's a facility there. I don't have the address at the top of my mind, but it's a 300,000 square foot facility that's currently occupied by a company that owns it. We would enter into an agreement with that company should this be approved.
It's without old, I mean, because we're talking about the other building that was, I think it was like 160,000 square feet, so that was a $4 million roof. We're now gonna need an $8 million roof, so how old is, what are the numbers?
So MLGW has a lot of facilities. The facility we talked about today with the budget with the roof, that is in our North Center. That is building 8. That is 180,000 square feet. It's largely one level. It's a warehouse type industrial facility. Inside, we keep key components that we need to make sure that the system operates. We also have some offices for our line workers and for our distribution crews in there. The North Center is a very large facility. We'll be making some announcements in the future about expanding the North Center with some new industrial style warehouse buildings there. So
this is in addition to?
Yes, this would be in addition to that. Those will be kind of the low slung warehouse style buildings that are suitable for industrial purpose. The building we're talking about here has more electric backup, data center kinds of improvements, and a lot of floor space for cubicles for engineers and other staff.
This was a challenging summer, as you mentioned. Customers lost phone screens, they went days without power. Can you assure our viewers that a rate hike will prevent this in the future?
Well, that's a really good question, and there's no guarantees. But the aggressive program of improvements that we are forecasting for our electric system is our best path forward. We know, for instance, that trees are the primary cause of outages for overhead power lines. And we also know that we haven't met historically the tree trimming goals. This year, we hired and deployed 3 new tree trimming contractors. We removed the old contractor who hadn't met our goals, and they are out trimming trees aggressively now. We will monitor their progress and make sure they stay on tap. That is more money, as you know, than we have spent in the past. Replacing the outdated infrastructure is another significant part. And we know that things, as you all know, things just wear out and break. They become more susceptible to breaking the older they get, and sometimes they're not built to a modern construction standard. We have infrastructure you've heard me talk about that was installed 80 years ago. Well, 80 years ago, we didn't have things like central air conditioning, and so it was easier to put more customers on one transformer, more customers on one power line. Part of our plan is to reduce the number of customers on every transformer, reduce the customers on every power line. That doesn't mean moving the customers, that means adding more lines and more transformers so there are less people on each one. That is also part of the plan, which we know will improve reliability. I want to come back to what you said. We made similar kinds of improvements. We didn't do grid modernization, but we did tree trimming and replacing outdated infrastructure in the normal station neighborhood a few years back. And we saw an immediate 50% improvement in reliability. So we know that model works, and we're going to deploy that more broadly across the entire service area. And then we expect more reliability to come with the grid modernization components that come with that, because it does give us the ability to automatically shift the load in the face of any challenges or breakages in the system.
Following up to that, you reflected on your first 9 months. You also talked about the ice storm. What's being done as we approach those winter months to prevent that ice storm? I also want to ask about a similar situation. What's being done to prevent a similar situation? Also wanted to ask about your staffing increase. You placed nearly 400 new staff members.
We've hired 385 people, yes, against the vacancies that we had. Yes.
Along with your customer advocacy officer. Can you elaborate on that?
Okay, so that's a lot. So first, if I could prevent the ice storm, I would. I don't know that I could prevent it, but your point is valid. So the deep freeze The issue we had with the water distribution was largely because of fire protection systems that were not being monitored, and folks were not there to let us know when those breaks happened. So we have coordinated with Shelby County Office of Code and Construction Enforcement and the fire departments from around the service area to make sure that we have better situational awareness when the temperature goes down. So that's one lesson. If we can turn those off earlier, or if we can vacate abandoned fire protection systems in buildings that are not occupied, that will reduce the likelihood of having any issue. We do know that we've entered into El Nino. We expect this winter to potentially be winter for us. We might get some more precipitation, but we think it's also a more stable and predictable weather pattern for us. On the hiring, we did have a significant number of vacancies when I arrived. I challenged our HR team to significantly increase our hiring. So 385 people we have hired just since the beginning of 2023, and that was through the end of September. We still have 3 more months to go. I anticipate it will be more than 400. That will get us net new employees because, as you know, there's always some turnover with employees. We lose several hundred employees every year, just a natural turnover. But we're looking for a net increase in employees. We will add some new employees that are critical to the grid modernization, more engineers, more in-house and contracted crews to help us get the work done, more customer service folks. Now, Ms. DuBose, who spoke today, is our customer advocacy. She's our first customer advocacy officer who is front and center. Prior to this, we always had customer service agents. They all are advocates for our customers. But Ms. DuBose is leading the charge to transform customer service and really take some of the most complex issues that customers have. We know with the billing issues, with the register problems, some of these are a little difficult. Everybody has an individual issue that they're trying to resolve. Mr. Bose is leading the charge to make sure that people feel like they have an advocate for them inside Memphis Light Gas and Water that can help them through whatever kind of situation they're facing. Hopefully I answered all of the questions. Okay.
Final question actually on
Okay.
the late billing.
Yes, ma'am.
Are you confident that your plan is legal because you see that by statute you're required
Yes.
to charge customers for what they owe, but you have no proof the meters are broken, so you're using an estimate or a guess.
So I'm absolutely confident that we're doing the right thing, consistent with statute, consistent with best practice in the utility industry, so I'm absolutely confident we're doing the right thing. We do know that utilities were used at a residence, for example, if their water meter was not registering any use, but they were using electric and gas at similar as they would not be using any water in their home. Estimations have happened since utilities have been in existence. As you know, when we had manual meter readers, there were times when there was a dog in the yard and they couldn't go in. There was a gate that was locked and they couldn't gain access. In those circumstances, we always had to estimate the bill. And so again, we're comporting with best practice in the industry and what we know to be allowable under the law and what is consistent with what we see in other service areas that are having an issue like this. So, any other questions? That was your last one. Anybody else have one?
Actually, I have one quick question. I promise.
And this will be the last one.
And you know, what follow-up on
People are, I mean, they're tired. I mean, now, you know, we're talking about vegetation, working equipment, and now an extra $5. It seems small, but when you're tired, when you're getting a 5-figure bill, you know, what do you say on? We're still asking you for something, and yet you're getting, you know, you're getting the end of the stick that's not favorable.
Okay, could you rephrase the question?
Yeah,
So I'm
you
trying
know,
to
we're
understand.
going back to the $5.
Okay,
The
yes.
increase. You know, but people are still getting these high bills, these sky high bills. You mentioned broken equipment, you mentioned the vegetation issue. You know, what do you say to someone who is having to decide between paying that bill and putting food on the table?
Sure. So I want to segregate that just a little bit. So there is the funding that's needed to make the improvements to the system, which will make it more reliable. There is, as we mentioned, a billing issue today that is the exception. Now, of the 5,200,000 bills that we send every year, typically there are a few thousand every month that have what we call an exception. In other words, it's unusually high, it's unusually low, or it reads zero. That is handled, and before the bill goes out, that is readjusted to make sure that people don't receive those unusually high bills. Because of the register failures that we're having and the number of exceptions that were climbing as high as 98,000 at one time. We had to make adjustments into our billing system to allow for that, for broad ranging estimations to happen. Then this is a temporary condition, so I understand. Spring storms, outages, a billing issue that's all layered on top of each other. That is frustrating. We are fixing that issue. We have gone from 96,000 of those delayed bills to under 20,000 now. We've gone from 38,000, whatever it is, down to about 7,000, and the balance of those are mostly commercial customers. So we think we've made it through the registration, through most of the residential customers. And so I understand how frustrating that can be. Billing issues aside, we would still be coming forward with the necessary increase to make the system more reliable. I stand before you and say that I am confident this is what we need to do. We are coming off of years of failed investments in our system because of lack of funding to do so. And so it gives me no pleasure to have to raise rates. I wish we could keep them flat for a long time, but that's not the world we live in. Inflation affects everything that we do, and being able to make investments to make your systems more reliable. The thing I want more than everything is for customers to never have to think about this, because everything just works.
And just quick
Yes,
follow
go
up on
ahead.
the question I asked earlier, because my dad is a meter reader in Albuquerque, and he has the dog-bite scars to prove it.
Yeah, well, sorry for that.
Yeah, but he said that, like, when they couldn't enter a customer's yard, the customer could dispute the estimate with the reading of their meter.
Sure.
But you can't do that in this case, and like, we met a woman who had not been in her house since December, and she had no way to dispute this, and it was actually because of the freeze that burst her pipes. She couldn't be in her home. So how can customers dispute this?
Well, we actually do have a customer council that will hear customer complaints, and it's been heard by members of the community, members of MLGW staff, and a board member. So there is actually a dispute process, and customers are taking advantage of that, coming to us to talk to us. So the one thing I want to mention is that there will always be a few exceptional exceptions. And for those, our team is doing a really good job of meeting the customers where they are and trying to solve the problem for that. The issue we were just talking about before with Mr. Bose is the customer advocate. She is helping to guide people to the help that they need, so that people with complex issues, like I'm very familiar with what you're talking about, the customers that ever has, people with complex issues can get their problems solved. So I appreciate all of you being here. It's sitting through what I know was a long meeting and a lot of information. We will be available in the future for more detailed questions if you like on any particular subject. But we're going to bring it to close today. My cell phone? Yeah, you can take my cell phone. Oh, the number, yeah. So, but thank you all for being here today. Thanks for helping to report this out.